Imagine waking up tomorrow morning and discovering that your bathroom has vanished. No toilet, no sink, no plumbing, no toilet paper, no sewer carrying everything away with a single push of a button. There is only your home, the people around you, and the same unavoidable biological problem every human being has faced since the beginning of our species. So what would you do? That question sounds childish, embarrassing, and maybe a little disgusting. But it is also one of the most revealing questions we can ask about the ancient world. Because the history of going to the bathroom is not just the history of toilets. It is the history of cities, disease, engineering, privacy, social class, and the long struggle to stop human waste from getting back into human food and water. The first thing to understand is that there was no single ancient bathroom experience. A hunter-gatherer living 20,000 years ago, a farmer in an early village, an Egyptian official, a merchant in an Indus city, and a citizen of imperial Rome all lived in completely different environments. They had different materials, different customs, and very different ideas about privacy. For most of human prehistory, people lived in relatively small and mobile communities. They did not build permanent bathrooms because they often did not build permanent houses. When nature called, the simplest answer was usually to move away from the sleeping area, water source, food preparation space, and main path of the group. Exactly how far they went, whether they dug a small hole, and what they used to clean themselves would have depended on the landscape and local custom. Archaeology cannot give us a complete instruction manual. Leaves, grass, bark, scraps of hide, moss, and other organic materials usually decay. Behaviors leave fewer traces than stone tools or bones. This is important because popular history often pretends to know more than the evidence allows. We can say that people had to manage waste. We can study preserved feces, settlement patterns, pits, drains, and later written descriptions. But we cannot confidently describe one universal Stone Age bathroom routine. In small mobile groups, waste was easier to escape. If a campsite became dirty, the group could move. Sunlight, insects, weather, soil organisms, and time could gradually break down what was left behind. That did not make the process safe or pleasant, but it prevented the same kind of massive concentration of waste that later appeared in towns. Then humans began to settle down. Agriculture allowed more people to live in one place for longer periods. Villages grew. Food was stored. Animals lived close to humans. Water sources were used repeatedly. Suddenly, waste was no longer something a community could simply leave behind. This created a basic mathematical problem. One person produces a manageable amount of waste. A family produces more. A village produces a great deal. A city produces an astonishing amount every day. Once thousands of people live behind walls, surrounded by houses, markets, workshops, wells, animals, and streets, there is no convenient away. Every bucket emptied and every pit dug remains somewhere inside or near the system. The invention of the toilet was therefore not one brilliant moment when a single genius designed a seat with a hole. It was a series of experiments in separation. How do you separate people from waste? How do you separate waste from drinking water? How do you move it, bury it, store it, reuse it, or wash it away? Some of the earliest built toilets appeared in ancient Mesopotamia. By the early 3rd millennium BCE, houses at sites such as Ur and Nippur could contain small rooms with drains or deep pits beneath them. Some systems used vertical columns made from perforated ceramic rings. Liquid could seep away while solid material remained below. These were not modern flush toilets. There was no hidden tank, no porcelain bowl, and no powerful stream of treated water. The user may have squatted or sat over an opening. Waste dropped into a pit or passed into a drain. The system reduced the need to carry everything through the house, but it did not make the waste disappear, and not every home had one. This is another detail that is often lost when people describe ancient technology. Finding an advanced toilet in one building does not mean every person in the civilization enjoyed that technology. Archaeologists may uncover the homes of wealthy families, palaces, temples, or unusually well-preserved neighborhoods. The poor, the enslaved, laborers, travelers, and rural families may have relied on much simpler arrangements. An ancient city could contain impressive engineering and terrible sanitation at the same time. In the Indus civilization, cities such as Mohenjo-daro and Harappa developed some of the ancient world's most remarkable drainage systems. Many buildings had washing areas. Household wastewater could pass through brick channels into covered street drains. Openings allowed sections to be inspected and cleaned. Some homes also had spaces interpreted as toilets, with waste directed into a drain or soak jar. Water could be poured manually to help move material. This was not the same as pressing a modern flush handle, but the principle is familiar. Use water and gravity to carry waste away from the user. The extraordinary part was not simply the existence of a toilet. It was the way domestic drainage connected with a larger urban plan. The bathroom was becoming part of the city. But again, a drain is not magic. It only moves material from one place to another. If the final destination is too close to a well, field, house, river, or street, the danger remains. Ancient Egypt offers another version of the same problem. Wealthier households could use seats made from wood or stone with a container placed beneath. Sand or another absorbent material could be used in the pot. Afterward, someone had to remove and empty it. That final sentence reveals the hidden reality behind many ancient luxuries. A private toilet was comfortable for the person sitting on it because another person often handled the unpleasant part. That person might be a servant, laborer, or enslaved worker. The history of sanitation is therefore also a history of status. The wealthy gained distance from their waste by making poorer people carry it. Even today, sanitation systems depend on workers who clean pipes, maintain treatment plants, empty tanks, collect waste, and enter places everyone else avoids. Modern machines have reduced some of the danger, but they have not eliminated the human labor behind cleanliness. In the ancient world, that labor was more visible, more physical, and often more unequal. So what did people use before toilet paper? Almost anything that was available, affordable, and culturally acceptable. Water was one of the most important tools. In many regions, people washed rather than wiped or combined both methods. Water could be carried in a vessel, poured by hand, or supplied through a nearby channel. Where water was scarce, people might use dry materials. Smooth stones, grass, leaves, wool, scraps of cloth, broken pottery, wooden tools, or plant fibers have all been associated with cleaning practices in different times and places. But we should be careful. A material that could have been used is not always a material we can prove was used. Ancient humor, art, preserved tools, written texts, and microscopic traces give us stronger evidence than imagination. In the Greek and Roman world, one famous object was the pesos, a small rounded piece of stone or pottery. Literary references and images suggest that such pieces could be used for wiping. This sounds painfully rough, and it probably was. The ideal piece would have been smooth, with no sharp edge. Even then, repeated use of hard material could cause irritation. Ancient cleanliness often involved a trade-off between removing waste and damaging skin. The strangest evidence comes from ancient China. At a relay station on the Silk Road, archaeologists found personal hygiene sticks dating from around the period between the 2nd century BCE and the 2nd century CE. These were pieces of bamboo or wood with cloth wrapped around one end. Researchers found preserved fecal material and parasite eggs on them. That microscopic evidence confirmed that at least some travelers used these sticks to clean themselves after defecating. The discovery also revealed something larger. One of the parasites found normally lived far from the dry desert station. The infected traveler had likely carried it over a great distance. The Silk Road moved silk, spices, ideas, religions, and technologies. It also moved diseases inside human bodies. Paper was eventually used for toilet hygiene in China, with written evidence appearing centuries later. But for much of the ancient world, paper was too rare, expensive, or unavailable to be treated as a disposable bathroom product. Toilet paper feels basic to us because industrial production makes it cheap. In a society where paper must be made by hand and has value as a writing material, using large quantities once and throwing them away would seem extravagant. Nowhere are ancient bathroom habits more famous than in Rome. The Romans built aqueducts, sewers, public baths, fountains, and latrines across much of their empire. Their cities could display a level of water engineering that would remain impressive in any age. But the Roman public toilet was not designed around modern privacy. A typical public latrine might contain a long stone or wooden bench with a row of openings. People sat side by side. There were usually no individual stalls, no high walls between users, and no locked doors protecting each person from view. Imagine a row of toilet seats in a modern airport with every partition removed. Now imagine that using them is a normal social activity. For many Romans, privacy worked differently. Public bathing, communal toilets, crowded housing, and shared urban spaces created a culture in which bodily functions could be less isolated than they are in many societies today. That does not mean every Roman enjoyed the experience. It means the architecture did not prioritize personal privacy in the way a modern bathroom usually does. Under the seats, a channel carried waste. Water might flow through the system, sometimes using runoff from baths or other sources. In front of the seats, another shallow channel could provide water for cleaning. The famous Roman bathroom tool was the tersorium, a sponge attached to a stick. It is often described as a shared ancient version of toilet paper. According to the popular story, users rinsed the sponge in water or vinegar and passed it to the next person. That story is memorable, horrifying, and possibly too simple. Ancient texts and archaeological evidence leave room for debate about exactly how the tool was used. Some scholars interpret it as a device for personal cleaning. Others argue that it may have functioned more like a toilet brush used to clean the latrine itself. The safest conclusion is that sponge-tipped sticks were associated with Roman toilets, but the exact routine may have varied and is not perfectly documented. The uncertain answer is less dramatic than the viral version, but it is more honest. Roman toilets could also be dangerous in ways no modern user would expect. Decomposing waste produces gases. Rats and other animals could enter drainage systems. Ancient writers even described fears of creatures, fires, or supernatural forces emerging from latrines. Some Roman toilets contained images of protective gods or symbols. A bathroom visit could combine engineering, discomfort, conversation, smell, and superstition. Public latrines also reveal the social character of Roman life. People might talk, conduct business, exchange news, or simply wait together. A space that seems intensely private to us could be partly public to them. Yet Rome's impressive sanitation did not create a healthy, modern city. Archaeological research has found that intestinal parasites such as whipworm and roundworm remained common across the Roman world. In some areas, their prevalence may even have increased during Roman rule. How could a civilization with aqueducts, baths, sewers, and toilets still suffer from diseases spread through fecal contamination? Because sanitation is a complete chain. If one link fails, disease returns. A city may bring in clean water, but contamination can occur in storage containers. A toilet may remove waste from a house, but a sewer may discharge it into a river used downstream. Human feces may be collected and spread on farmland as fertilizer. Food may be handled with unwashed hands. Flies can move between waste and meals. Public baths may reuse water or bring many infected people into the same facilities. The Romans had infrastructure, but they did not have germ theory. They could observe smell, dirt, decay, and illness, yet they did not understand bacteria, viruses, and microscopic parasites as modern science does. Removing a bad smell was useful, but it did not guarantee that the invisible cause of disease had been removed. This distinction matters. A toilet can make a room more comfortable without making a population healthier. A sewer can clean one street by polluting another location. A bath can remove visible dirt while exposing people to contaminated water. The history of sanitation is full of solutions that moved the problem rather than ending it. Ancient Jerusalem provides a striking example. Archaeologists examined sediment from elite toilets dating to the Kingdom of Judah. These were not crude holes used by the poorest inhabitants. They belonged to wealthy estates whose owners had the status and resources to install private latrines. Researchers found evidence of intestinal parasites, including Giardia, which can cause severe diarrhea and dysentery. The toilet showed wealth. The contents showed disease. This does not mean the toilet caused the infection. It means that even privileged families with advanced facilities remained vulnerable to contaminated food and water. The same pattern appears repeatedly across history. Rich people often gain better access to comfort before society gains a scientific understanding of safety. A carved seat is not the same thing as sanitation. Flowing water is not automatically clean water. A sewer is not a treatment plant. What about people who did not have permanent toilets? Many used chamber pots. A chamber pot was exactly what it sounds like. A container kept indoors for urination or defecation, especially at night. It could be placed beneath a bed, inside a cabinet, or under a portable chair with an opening. In a large house, a servant might empty it. In a crowded building, the user might carry it outside. Depending on local rules and behavior, the contents could enter a cesspit, drain, street channel, garden, field, or rubbish heap. The chamber pot solved one problem brilliantly. You did not have to walk through a dark city at night. It created another problem the next morning. This is why ancient feces are so valuable to archaeologists. Preserved feces are called coprolites. They may look like the least glamorous objects in a museum collection, but they can contain extraordinary information. Scientists can identify plant remains, animal proteins, pollen, seeds, parasite eggs, and chemical markers. A single sample can reveal what someone ate, what infected them, and sometimes where they had traveled. Latrines are also archaeological archives. People threw more than waste into them. Broken pottery, food scraps, lost jewelry, cloth, tools, and household rubbish could all end up in a toilet pit. For archaeologists, an ancient toilet can preserve the private details official inscriptions ignore. Kings wrote about battles and gods. Latrines recorded meals, illness, work, trade, and daily habits. They tell us what civilization looked like from below. So did ancient humans simply live in filth? That conclusion is too easy. Ancient people repeatedly invented ways to separate waste from daily life. They dug pits, built seats, installed drains, carried water, assigned cleaning labor, regulated dumping, reused materials, and constructed enormous public works. Some of their systems were ingenious, some failed. Many did both at the same time. The real difference between their world and ours is not that they cared less about cleanliness. It is that modern sanitation combines ancient engineering ideas with industrial materials, pressurized water, sealed pipes, chemical treatment, microbiology, public health law, and massive energy use. A modern toilet is only the visible end of an invisible network. And perhaps the most surprising lesson is that privacy is only one part of the story. We tend to judge ancient toilets by asking whether they had doors, paper, and comfortable seats. Ancient people would probably judge our system by the astonishing amount of clean water we use to carry away a small amount of waste. They might admire it. They might also consider it incredibly wasteful. The bathroom is a mirror of civilization. It shows what a society values, what technology it can afford, whose labor remains invisible, and whether public comfort is shared equally. A palace toilet tells us about wealth. A public latrine tells us about social life. A sewer tells us about engineering. Parasite eggs tell us whether the system truly protected health. So how did ancient humans actually go to the bathroom? At first, most simply moved away from camp and used the landscape. As communities settled, they dug pits and created designated areas. As towns grew, people built seats, pots, soakaways, drains, and channels. The wealthy gained private facilities. The poor often relied on shared spaces or outdoor solutions. Servants and laborers carried away what others did not want to see. Different cultures cleaned themselves with water, cloth, plants, stones, pottery, wooden tools, sponge-tipped sticks, and eventually paper. The Romans built communal latrines where privacy was limited and conversation may have continued uninterrupted. Engineers moved waste through cities, but parasites still traveled through food, water, soil, animals, and human hands. And through all of it, one fact remained unchanged. Waste never truly vanished. It only went somewhere else. The next time you enter a clean bathroom, lock the door, sit in privacy, use soft paper, wash your hands, and flush everything away. Remember how many layers of history are hidden in that ordinary moment. You are using ideas developed over thousands of years. The pit, the seat, the drain, the water channel, the sewer, the washing station, and the belief that waste should be separated from human life. You are also benefiting from something most ancient people never had: a scientific understanding of what makes waste dangerous. A Roman engineer could move sewage with gravity. A modern treatment plant can reduce invisible pathogens. That difference is not glamorous, but it has saved more lives than many famous inventions. Ancient bathrooms were sometimes clever, sometimes communal, sometimes luxurious, and often disgusting by modern standards. But they were never trivial. They helped determine where cities could grow, how disease spread, how labor was divided, and how people understood dignity. Civilization was not built only in temples, palaces, and battlefields. Part of it was built in the small, uncomfortable places where humans confronted a problem no king, soldier, priest, or philosopher could avoid. And no matter how advanced our technology becomes, that may be the most democratic fact in all of human history.